And that's what he has become. And did you see that race that he won, but what, 1/100th of a second? Is that what's that? You know what that is? That's a fingernail. Did you know that? They were saying he won that race by the length of a fingernail. Now, what if he'd have trimmed his nails? He'd have lost. Isn't that amazing? They said by the length of a fingernail, he won a gold medal. But what I found more intriguing was when you see the slow-mo, the other guy was coasting, and he took one more, didn't he take one more stroke, and bang. It was that one extra effort that got him the gold. Let's not coast into heaven. Let's make that one last effort. That's what Paul says in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24 through 27. He says, do you not know that those who run in a race all run, but one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you may obtain it. Everyone who competes for the prize is temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a perishable crown, but we for an imperishable crown. Therefore I run thus, not with uncertainty. Thus I fight, not as one who beats the air. I discipline my body and bring it into subjection, lest when I have preached to others, I myself should become disqualified. I play by the rules and I discipline myself. I'm not a shadow boxer. I'm in the ring. I'm actually fighting it out. He says, I'm an athlete who is pressing towards that mark. And you know what? These Olympic athletes, and he's actually speaking about the Olympic Games or the Isthmian Games, which are games that were even at the time of Paul, which we resurrected here, in our time. He's speaking about the athletes who disciplined themselves and ran the race properly. He said, you may have a bunch of people running, but only one wins. Therefore, I want to be the one who wins. He says, I want to get that prize. They do it for a perishable crown because they would give them a wreath that was made out of leaves. He said, I am running for the imperishable crown. I want something that's going to last. It's got to be more than love of country. It's got to be more than love of sport. It's got to be more than anything that drives me. It has to be something beyond that. And for us as Christians, it's heaven. I want to step into heaven, and I want to hear the words, well done, my good and my faithful servant. And I want the Lord's rewards that He gives to me for faithfully serving Him. And when I go to heaven, it's going to be a place where when I finally see Him face to face. The psalmist in Psalm 17 verse 15 said, as for me, I will see your face in righteousness. In 1 John chapter 3 verse 2, John said, when He appears, we shall be like Him, for we shall see Him as He is. You will have an opportunity to look into the eyes of Jesus Christ one day. I've had people over the years tell me, boy, I'm looking forward to going to heaven. And I'll say, me too. And they'll say, because I'm going to go and talk to Paul. And I say, oh, yeah, that'd be cool. Talk to Paul. Oh, I want to talk to the Apostle Peter. You know what? Spend a lot of time with him. Because the more people in line to see those guys, that gives me freedom to see Jesus Christ. Because I want to see Him. He's the one that I want to spend time with. And I've already been thinking about what I want to say to Him. I've actually begun practicing it here on earth. You know, when my wife Marie, when her daddy died, he had a stroke and he was in the hospital, and he was there, and he's non-responsive. And they had him on, a monitor and everything, and he hadn't responded, and it had been a day or two. And I was in the room with him and with others, and as I was standing there in that room, I stood at the foot of his bed, and I had my hand on his foot, and I was just resting my hand on his foot, just holding it really. And I looked at him, and there he was in a coma. And I said to him something. I said, Pop, I want to say something to you that I've never said, that I never told you, while you could hear. I don't know if you can hear me now. I hope you can. But I want to tell you two things. First, I want to tell you I love you. Do you know I've been in the family so many years, and I never, ever told my father-in-law father-in-law that I loved him. And I did. I loved my father-in-law. He was a good man. And I loved him. But I never told him. So I said, I want to tell you I love you. And secondly, I want to tell you thank you. Thank you for the way you raised my wife. Thank you. She's a good girl, and I love her. Thank you, Pop. I love you. Thank you. That's what I say to Jesus. That's what I'm going to tell him. I love you. Thank you. Look what you've done for me. You gave me the best wife that a man could ever have. You gave me 4 children that I adore with every beat of my heart. You gave me grandbabies that are everything to me. You gave to me a church that I love with all my heart. Thank you for the goodness that you have shown to me. And Jesus, I love you. And I've been learning to say that now for a long time. I love you and thank you. So I know what I want to say to him when I get a chance to look into the eyes of the one who wept for me. When I see the one who was beaten and died for me, what am I going to say to him? What am I going to say? You know, you didn't give me enough. I've been wanting to take this out on you for a long time, and now we're face to face. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think when I see him, I know when I see him and I look into his eyes, I will say, I love you. And I will see him one day, face to face. So will you if you love Jesus Christ. So will you. It's guaranteed. Absent from the body, present with the Lord. You close your eyes here only to behold him there. And that's what Jesus is saying. I go, verse 3, to prepare a place for you. He says, and if I go to prepare a place, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. And where I go, you know, and the way you know. He says, I'm going to come again. This is a promise of what we call the rapture. This is not a reference to his second coming, where he comes and establishes his kingdom. This is when he comes to take us to be with him. Because that's what he says, I will receive you unto myself. It's what Paul is speaking of in 1 Thessalonians 4, when he says, I do not want you to be ignorant, brethren, concerning those who have fallen asleep, lest you sorrow as others who have no hope. For if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so God will bring with him those who sleep in Jesus. For this we say to you by the word of the Lord, that we who are alive and remain until the coming of the Lord will by no means precede those who are asleep. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of an archangel, with the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. Then we who are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. Thus we shall always be with the Lord. Therefore comfort one another with these words. We do not sorrow as those who have no hope. Yes, when I buried my dad, I went through terrible pain. Yes, when we've gone through times where my father-in-law went home to be with the Lord. Yes, we grieved, and yes, we cried, and we've cried for others, and cried for friends and family members, and so many. And yet, it's not that sorrow with no hope.